I'm Matt from Wrestling Unlimited, here to review Extreme Rules 2016. Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. The thing about attending live events and live pay-per-views is it allows a wrestling fan to be just a wrestling fan again. Kind of like going back to the old days of when I watched wrestling just for the sake of watching wrestling. I didn't watch wrestling for the sake of critiquing this, and this. I just watched wrestling for the sake of watching wrestling. And attending live events, being able to attend house shows, a Raw event, SmackDown tapings, or in this case, a pay-per-view, again, it allowed me to just sit back, relax, have a snack, have a drink, hang out with my friends Chris and Gabe, hang out with my sister Dana, and enjoy Extreme Rules 2016. Then, of course, in my usual fashion, I go back and I rewatch the show, and while it was definitely better than Payback, and up until then it was probably WWE's best pay-per-view, that doesn't tell the whole story. Now, of course, looking back at it, I'm going to always like it, have an appreciation for it, because I was lucky enough to be able to attend, and I was lucky enough to be a part of such a lively crowd in Newark, New Jersey, at least for the most part. But that does not tell the entire story. Extreme Rules 2016 had positives and it had negatives, just like every WWE show normally does. Unfortunately, in the case of Payback, most of what I talked about, which kind of seemed to anger some of you to a point where you were spamming me with messages, Walter Main. But, like I said, Extreme Rules 2016 had its positives and it had its negatives. Let's start with a quick positive, and then I'll go to the negatives before going back to positives again. One positive that I had was out of the 8 matches that WWE put on the show, 6 of them had some sort of an extreme stipulation, and that's good. You don't want to clutter the entire pay-per-view with gimmick matches, but you also don't want to have just 1 or 2. It's always good to have a variety. You had a no disqualification match in there, a tornado tag match in there, the Asylum match, you had a submissions match, you had a fatal 4-way, you had the main event street fight, Extreme Rules match, whatever. You had all that. And that's good. And then you had 2 singles matches, or 1 singles match and 1 tag team match mixed in there. That's fine. You don't need anything spectacular for them, especially looking to see how the matches actually played out. You really didn't need to add anything to them. They were just kind of there. Let's talk about some of the negatives. And the show definitely had its fair share of negatives. Some of them involving 2 of the 3 featured matches on the show, and some of them involving just some of the nitpicky stuff. For example, like Baron Corbin versus Dolph Ziggler. 2 pay-per-views in, and I still don't care about this feud. This match was just kind of It's a shame that you had a no disqualification match, and you really did not do much with the time that you had. They barely gave them time to begin with. The fact that they put him on the pre-show kind of shows you how the WWE views both Baron Corbin and Dolph Ziggler. So, yeah. This match kind of just was what it was. It was a way to try and attempt to get the crowd into it, ultimately failing. I will say, though, that the segment involving Dudley's with Big Cass was definitely a way to get the crowd moving. That's a good thing. And you can already see that WWE has Big Cass on their mind going forward when the tag team with Enzo eventually splits up. You can already tell that they're going to go in that direction. Now, a problem I had with this match were there were 2 tag matches that were just kind of random. You had Luke Gallows and Anderson, the Club, defeating the Usos in the Tornado Tag Team match. The one thing that this match lacked, and I think that it's something that has been lacking, especially with the club, is chemistry. And this match just did not have chemistry. And to me, it kind of threw it off a little bit. It was a little bit too all over the place. There wasn't really a synergy. It really did not get the show off on the right note. And then you had the New Day versus the Vaudevillains. New Day are entertaining. Vaudevillains are not. That's really a recipe for disaster. And this match, while you can look at it and say it was fun because the New Day was there, it was just a Raw tag team match or a SmackDown tag team match. It wasn't that special. You kind of just threw the Vaudevillains in there because, even though they didn't win the number one contender, or they did win the number one contendership at Payback, even though the match technically ended in a no contest, but we're going to just overlook that and give them the shot anyway. It kind of seems like you just threw them in there just to throw them in there, and that's a problem. Then we get to the U.S. title match. Whoop-de-doo, yippity-skip, the United States Championship match, and specifically the United States Champion Kalisto is actually being featured on the main pay-per-view. Whoop-de-freaking-do. Unfortunately, that means, of course, that as soon as he gets featured on the pay-per-view, he's going to lose the United States Championship. Great job, WWE. WWE. They never seem to amaze me. They never fail to amaze me, excuse me. Kalisto, who's actually getting over as that kind of underdog mid-card champion, and you put him on the pre-show for 2 straight pay-per-views, and then when you finally put him on the main show, you have him lose. Does that not bother anyone but me? Oh, man. And looking at the other side of this match, you've done pretty much nothing to build and... how can I put this? You've really done nothing to elevate Rusev. He's pretty much in the same exact spot that he was 2 years ago. He had no progression whatsoever. Unfortunately, that's what the Cena monster will do to you. And don't think that it hasn't affected people in the past, because it has. See Bray Wyatt, see the Nexus, see, in this case, Rusev. Just kind of randomly thrown in there to be U.S. champion again, competing in these random matches. Even when I talk about Money in the Bank in the next review. Again, another random match against Titus O'Neil. You've pretty much done nothing to progress Rusev to a point where people actually want to care about him. And that's unfortunate. You pretty much screwed the pooch with both of these guys, including Kalisto. I like Kalisto. The notion that I don't like him is stupid. I never said I didn't like him. But here, in this case, they definitely screwed the pooch. This Asylum match. I have to applaud WWE for at least trying to do something different. But I'm sorry. This match just went way too damn long. And after you followed the Fatal 4-Way match, which I will get to later, you put this match next. And in theory, because Ambrose is in there, because Jericho's in there, because there's an extreme stipulation involved with it, you would think that it would follow it up and keep the crowd into it, or in it. It didn't. The crowd went dead for this match, and then the next match of Charlotte versus Natalya, which, by the way, that wasn't good either. This Ambrose Jericho Asylum match was slow. It was very boring. It never clicked. To me, it never worked. And it just kind of was there. Dean Ambrose went over, which is fine. But again, you've done so much wrong with Dean Ambrose that is a win over Chris Jericho really going to matter? I mean, really. Especially considering what happened at WrestleMania. He really took a step down in that match. And for those of you saying, well, the match being bad at Mania was because Brock didn't want to do anything. Well, Dean didn't really do anything at Payback. He didn't really do anything at Extreme Rules. You know? Match kind of was what it was. Wasn't good. And I didn't really care about it in the end. And I also hate the notion that just because there's thumbtacks means that the match is all of a sudden a 5-star classic. That's not the case at all. The match can still suck with thumbtacks. You have Charlotte versus Natalya in this submissions match. Now, I didn't really think Charlotte and Natalya had good chemistry to begin with, and in this match they pretty much continued to prove my point. And in the end, it became more about launching Dana Brooke than it became more about launching Dana Brooke than about launching Charlotte or launching Natalya. So yeah. Let's talk about the positives on this show. First of all, pretty much every championship was defended. That's a good thing. You had a solid number of matches on a 3-hour show. You had 8 matches, 7 on the main show, 1 on the pre-show. That's a good thing. I thought that other than the Asylum match that went way too damn long, time management was pretty fine. That's also a good thing. Flow of the card, card placement, match placement, card structure, excuse me. That was also set pretty well. That was a good thing. This Fatal 4-Way Intercontinental Championship match. I know that people disliked this match because it was pretty much just an ROH-style match. But in some cases, when you have nothing to do with these 4 guys, putting all 4 of them together may not be the worst thing in the world. And it definitely wasn't the worst thing in the world. This match was probably the second best match of the night. I still argue that the main event was the best match of the night. And I'll get to that in a few seconds. But you have Cesaro. You had him get a good showcase. You had Kevin Owens get a good showcase. You gave some sort of a shine to Sami Zayn. And you had Miz walk out as the opportunistic heel IC champion. The match worked. The in-ring quality was good. The crowd was good. Probably a little bit too good. I still question the "This is awesome" chant because it should not be used during every freaking match. And in this case, yeah, the match was awesome, but, the match was good. I wouldn't call it great. It's a match of the year candidate in WWE, but that's not really saying much. This match was really good, though. And again, it kept the crowd into it at least long enough. Let me rephrase that. It kept the crowd into it until the next 2 matches. And then, of course, we get to the main event. Roman Reigns, AJ Styles, Part 2. While I thought that their first match was just an overbooked piece of crap main event, this match was pretty much the complete opposite, the complete 180. And these two showed their chemistry really, really, really well. This match was my match of the night, my favorite match. And you had Roman Reigns walk in as champ and walk out as champ like I pretty much expected it to happen. You gave shine to AJ Styles by putting him in this spot. You established Roman Reigns and established the fact that he could actually go against a big-time opponent, contrary to what some of you Roman Reigns haters want to think, but too bad, that's the truth. He can definitely work a match right now better than Dean Ambrose can. Not even close. Roman Reigns versus AJ Styles in this Extreme Rules match, they fought all over the arena. They used weapons. It didn't become a cluster. You had minimal involvement of the club and the Usos. It wasn't them overpowering the entire match. It worked. And immediately following the match, you set up a phenomenal finish to the pay-per-view, which was the return after a long absence of the former world champion Seth Rollins. Again, you needed to end this show on a high note because there were a lot of low points, some high points, but this made me remember the show in addition to actually being at the show. This is going to make people remember the show because this return of Seth Rollins was what made this show really, really good. And Seth Rollins is back. This worked. And that's all you could really ask for.